Welcome back to Sister Sit Down. My name's Kasey, and today, instead of sitting down with my sister, I'm actually sitting down with my brother-in-law, Dalton.
Hi, I'm the upgrade.
Oh my God, applause.
Thank you.
We have no idea what we're going to be talking about today. Neither one of us has prepared anything. We do have one topic we could discuss in depth, and it is exposing all of our toxic family members by name, organized from least offensive to most offensive. And that's probably what we should talk about today, don't you think?
That caught me off guard.
Yeah, let's just do it.
All right, well, if we're here, might as well start,
You're
right?
supposed to agree for the hook for the video. Oh my God. No, but we'll probably talk about teaching today and like our top 5 funniest moments in the classroom, because despite all best efforts trying to convince Dalton to not go into education when he was in college, he still did. And here we are.
What a mistake.
So why did you go into teaching?
Well, do we want the actual answer, or do we want
We want the raw,
the
unfiltered
public,
truth.
public answer I'm supposed to give?
No, the real answer.
Oh, I didn't want to be a teacher at all.
Okay.
That's just the honest truth.
So how'd you end up there?
I started at Holmes Community College with the intention of being occupational therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I went to Southern Miss, we had to start shadowing,
Mm-hmm.
like occupational therapy clinics and PT clinics and stuff like that. Well, when I was there, I was like, I don't like this.
A little too clinical.
Well, the sad thing is, I was like, this is way too much paperwork.
So you became a teacher.
And then I went to the counselor's office and I was like, hey, I don't want to do this major anymore. What you got for me? And we sat down and we talked about my interest, and that sounds terrible. I shouldn't say that, right?
So your interest was little children?
It was like helping people, but then it was like, well, how can I help people in the best way? And then it turns out, well, how about you shape them and mold them in, while they're younger? And I was like, we can give it a shot. So they recommended the education program. When I went and shadowed my first school, because we had to go for practicum experiences, which you know all about. And those were,
Hell.
yeah, they were terrible. But
Maybe that's what we should talk about.
but when I shadowed a couple of the teachers and I saw their love for education, and then that kind of fed into me, and then I was like, you know what? Why not stick with it and get a degree?
Isn't that funny that you were going to school for PT and you ended up marrying a physical therapist?
Yeah, so that's the good and the bad thing about education right now for me, is that if I would have stuck with OT, then I wouldn't have met my oh so wonderful wife, Katie, who's off camera right now, probably blushing. Yeah.
She's so lucky.
She's so lucky to be attached to me right now.
With your
Especially with my last name, because it's so long.
Well, and it has so much deep history with it.
Yeah, it's
Your
like
last
a German
name.
last name, and that's about all I know.
Oh my gosh. So we could talk about, did you have a crazy experience with your clinical time as a teacher?
With practicum?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we called it practicum. We didn't call it clinical hours.
We called it student teaching.
So before we student taught, we had to go to schools twice a week.
Yeah.
And because I was dual program, so I was half was elementary education, half was special education. So for one day it was elementary education, so with a gen ed teacher, and then the second day was with a special education teacher. So we went twice a week. There was a school, not gonna name it because they might see this eventually if we get big enough, right? And I don't want to ruin nothing. That the gen ed teacher, because we're not supposed to be left unsupervised.
Oh, okay.
At
So
all.
all teachers did that then, because that happened to me too.
We could not be left unsupervised at all in the classroom. It had to be a certified teacher or a certified sub in the room. Well, there was a time in the first grade classroom, I think that's what it was, first grade, kindergarten, one of the two. And that's when I found I didn't. I can't do low grades like that.
Kindergarten is terrifying.
Oh my god, I can't.
They're feral.
Dude, they're terrible.
It's like stepping on an ant bed and just watching them run.
See, I can't handle the clinginess, right? Like since you are a newly mother, so you're used to having to deal with like the constant doing something for Fox, right? Well, that's how you're doing every single day, but instead of for just one kid, it's for
30.
all 20 to 30 kids. Well, this teacher was just fed up with whatever was going on that day. I don't even remember what happened. I think there was some kind of arts and crafts assignment.
Oh, God,
and
I
they
bet there was
spilled
glitter
something.
involved.
It was paint.
Oh,
it was like washable paint. And straight up left the classroom. And, like, you know, you think, okay, maybe there was a spill that happened. Maybe they went to get something to clean it up with. No. Straight up left.
She was having a moment.
No, she didn't come back for like an hour.
She was having a big moment.
Now, keep in mind, I'm the only adult in the classroom.
You were the only adult? There wasn't an assistant?
No.
Oh.
It was straight up me. And I was like, this is not right. So we had our instructors, like our instructors' phone numbers, just in case something bad happened.
Like this.
Yeah, like this. So I had to text her real quick, like, hey, I'm in this room at this school. The teacher left me for like 30 minutes ago. Like, what's going on? And then like 30 minutes later, the teacher comes back in and like the principal's coming down. Like, what's going on? I'm like, listen, I'm just here for school.
What a hornet's nest.
Yeah, it was not good at all.
I did for the same semester or two where you just go once or twice a week. I was also in a kindergarten classroom. And I met this little boy. I won't say his name, but I will
name dropping.
I will never forget this little boy because I'm trying to help him with his work. I also learned that I was like, I do not want to be a kindergarten teacher. I truly believe certain people are called to be teachers in general, and then I believe there are these very special breed of people that are called to be kindergarten teachers, and I'm not one of them. I'm not one of those people. And I'm sitting here helping this little boy do his work so that he can go outside and play. And he's had a rough day, and the teacher's been getting on him a lot. And he looks up at me as I'm trying to help him, and he goes, "You got dirty teeth." You know what I did?
I said, smiled
all
at
done.
him. Oh.
All done.
I thought you smiled at him, like, look at it.
Go outside. We're done. Just put his stuff in his cubby, and I was like, we're through. I'm done with this. I can't do this anymore. And I think about that child every time I brush my teeth because I see my teeth, and they had dirty teeth because they're stained from my braces.
Now, I do 100% agree with what you said, though. There are people that are called to be teachers. I'm not one of them. I think I was just right place, right time, and, you know, in that part of my life, and currently, since I'm still a teacher, it's the right thing to do right now. But if you are a kindergarten teacher, or I'll even say first grade, especially pre-K, you have my utmost respect. I truly can't do it. It's just I don't have that level of patience to handle it. I barely have enough to do what I'm currently doing. And don't get me wrong, my class this year, they are some great kids this year. They're talkative. But that's how most kids are. Yeah. But this group is just amazing. And I've had some amazing groups and amazing kids in the past couple of years. But compared to last school year, oh my God.
Your last year was insane.
Oh my goodness gracious.
I was really hoping you'd like quit in the middle of the year or something, because it's very empowering to just like leave a bad situation when you're teaching.
So that's the thing. Now we can talk about last year. So for those that don't know, because a lot of people don't know this, except for like
for all 10 of you that are watching.
Yeah, for like all 15 of you, and if you happen to know about the situation I was in last year from my school, or you were there at the school, yeah, it was bad. Now we won't name nobody, won't name any kids, obviously.
Of course not. We won't dox them
unless it's gonna be no, I'm not gonna do that. But no, I had. At the beginning of every year, the second grade teachers look at our schedules and like look at our rosters, and they're like, "Hey, I had this kid. They aren't gonna be they're not gonna mesh well together. They shouldn't be together." Yeah. Well, that's what happened, and they put like 5 or 6 kids that were deliberately said not to be, like, next to each other 'cause they don't get along
Mhm.
very well, and they put them all in my homeroom. And I'm like, and we switched classes in 3rd grade. So I'm
Mhm.
sitting there thinking, okay, well, maybe this year there's something different. Maybe
Yeah, they're a
the
year
over the
older.
summer they
Mhm.
mature a little bit. Maybe we can work this out. Well, the first week happened, and we can tell it wasn't gonna work.
Mhm.
Um, so we went to our admin, which by the way, I love
Mhm.
dearly. Uh, Miss Bates, if you're watching for some reason, love you so much. Miss Murphy, watching, love you so much. But we would talk to them about it, and the unfortunate thing is, since they had IEPs,
Mhm.
we couldn't get them transferred out. Like, we couldn't
Mhm.
switch them to different classes. Well, so that meant we had to figure out ways to deal with it.
Mhm.
And we tried and we tried and we tried. And my co-teacher, uh, she ended up leaving, not due to the kids. She has some other stuff happening
Mhm.
in her life that had to be addressed with her and her family, which, hey, got you. Do what you got to
Mhm.
do with your family. Family comes first, right? Job comes second.
Unless you're in our family.
Uh,
It comes
but
forth.
anyway, so she ends up leaving at our fall break. And
Mhm.
we started a new thing where we get a 2-week fall break. The first week is called fall intercession, where
Mhm.
it's extra tutoring for the kids.
Yeah.
And the kids come Monday through Friday from 7 to 12. They get fed breakfast and lunch, sent home. Well, after the 2 weeks was up, I think she stayed for like one more extra week or something like that.
Mhm.
I can't remember the exact timeline, but she did end up leaving, and we did not hire somebody as a full time teacher to replace her
Mm.
yet. And I had to be the sole contact for all 48 kids.
Oh my
Well, not
gosh.
48. That's probably over exaggerated. It was like 18 and 18. It's like 40 kids, it's roughly.
Mhm.
I had to be the sole contact for math and ELA for both classes.
That's a lot of parents.
Yes, it is. And
Mm.
anybody knows in Mississippi, 3rd grade is a very important subject because if they don't pass that 3rd grade
They
reading gate
gate
test,
test.
if they don't pass it, they don't pass 3rd grade.
Mhm.
And they immediately look at the teachers like, okay, what's going on?
Mhm.
Right?
Why didn't you teach my baby how to read?
I hear that so much. I teach math and I hear that.
Uh-huh.
Like, come
Mhm.
on now. I'm sorry. I teach math.
And that starts in like, well, now reading starts in kindergarten. It's like,
Exactly.
how'd you get all the way to 3rd grade and you can't read? This is not my problem. This is
Exactly.
the exit.
Exactly. That's what I
Mm.
say.
It doesn't make any sense.
But we unfortunately didn't hire anybody. Now we did hire a 3rd grade teaching assistant in the meantime,
Mhm.
and I will name drop her, Miss Smith. If you're watching for some strange reason, love you so much as well. She's fantastic. She still texts me at least once a week or once a month now because I moved schools. But hey, she was a sweetheart and I love her dearly. But she if it wasn't for her, I probably would have left.
Mhm.
And because she was placed inside the classroom next to me, my co-teacher's classroom, um, is basically a temporary person until they get like like a daily sub or
Yeah.
something.
Mhm.
So she was a familiar face for the kids and for me as
Mhm.
well. And she knew that I had her back, and I had her back, and it was
Mhm.
it was a great thing. And but we thankfully hired somebody in December
Mhm.
that started in January, and I'll name drop her too, Miss Salomon, if you're watching. Thanks for helping me out for that last 4 or 5 months. Um, but that group of kids was crazy. Yeah. Now there's still some of them inside of their parents. I see every now and then, and I talk to them, and
Mhm.
they message me on Facebook sometimes,
Yeah.
and they want me to come to like the kids events and stuff, and
Yeah.
I'll happily come to it. Um, and those kids, I love them to death.
Mhm.
Like they were the group that kept me sane
Yeah.
while I was there.
There's nothing better. Like teaching is so hard and like such a pain in the butt, honestly. But there is nothing better than going to like a little kid sporting
Oh
event
yeah.
when you say, "Hey, I'm going to come to your baseball game or whatever," and they turn around and you're there at their baseball
Mm-hmm.
game. Jordan and I went to some of my students last year to their baseball game, and it was 3 students. 2 were in my current class, and then 1 I had taught my first year at that school. And they were like, "You can come to our baseball game?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll come." And we showed up, and they're in the dugout, and I call their name, and they turn around and they just go Like, they could not believe that we showed up, and it was the best thing ever. It was so cute watching a bunch of, 3rd graders play baseball. Like, it was
Oh
so
yeah,
much fun, and I cannot wait till Fox is old enough to do, like, T-ball and baseball and everything, and I know Jordan is so excited about that too.
as you should. That way y'all can retire whenever.
He can go pro.
No, you can ask Katie off camera here, but whenever we went to a couple of the baseball games,
Mhm.
we'll walk up to like not even at the fields yet. We're walking
Mhm.
to it, and sometimes all you hear is Mr. H, Mr. H, and
Mhm.
it's like kids on the field
Yep.
playing in the outfield,
This is why their games
looking
take
at
so
me while
long.
they're playing, looking at me say Mr. H, and I'm like, bro, ball, like
Doink.
come on now. And then the coaches get mad at me, look at me, and like,
Mhm.
what's going on? I'm like, I didn't do nothing.
Don't you teach them discipline in the
No, I
classroom?
don't.
Ridiculous.
Classroom management is non-existent. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Surviving.
I'm doing a great job, Mr. Ryder.
It's just surviving. Oh my goodness. You were talking about your what do you call it? Practicum?
Yeah, so practicum is 2 days a week, and
Mhm.
then student teaching is all day, every day.
Yeah. When you did your student teaching, did you have a good experience?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Can't relate to that.
yes. Oh, I know about yours. But yeah, I had a great experience. I had now she's my coworker.
Mhm.
Her name is
Oh,
Miss.
that's nice.
Yeah, her name is Miss Swindle. We love Miss Swindle.
Mhm.
Miss Swindle is a sweetheart. Um, she taught me so much, and
Mm.
she really taught me how to be patient because her class is an inclusion classroom.
Yeah.
So when I was in there, I had to develop the patience and
Mhm.
try my best to deal with different circumstances that I
Mhm.
normally wouldn't have dealt with in a normal gen ed classroom, right?
Yeah.
Like so it's she taught me a lot, and hopefully I'm doing her proud
Gosh.
5 years later.
For I've talked about my student teaching experience a little bit with some people. Um, for
I was one
people,
of them.
yeah, for people, I was trying to use mine as a cautionary tale for you to be like, for the love of God, do not go into teaching because these women are crazy. My student teaching experience, my like practicum, my short time in classrooms was great. I was in a kindergarten classroom in Pontotoc with a great kindergarten teacher. I wanted to work there because they got to wear scrubs.
Ooh,
It was like a lower elementary school, and they wore scrubs like 2 or 3 days a week.
why?
Because it's like a lower elementary, so there's like, they're like kindergarten and pre-K, so it's
Hmm.
just like little sticky kids all day. And
Oh,
so they would wear either like black or gray scrubs, and they were like monogrammed with the school emblem and stuff. And scrubs are the superior teacher clothing. Do you know how many pockets are in a scrub outfit?
2.
No.
I didn't know it was 2 from. I don't know.
Oh my God. There's like 20 pockets on a scrub top and scrub pants. And it's like that's what teachers need. Teachers need 47 pockets to put all their crap in and their markers and their things. And I loved it. And I was like, Jordan loved when we lived in Oxford. And I was like, this is what's going to happen. We're going to graduate. We're going to stay in Oxford. I'm going to work in Pontotoc, and I'm going to get to wear scrubs every day and not have to work in the medical field. This will be awesome.
When you say lower, are we talking about just pre-K through?
I don't know what they went up to, but I know they were not like
What was the highest you went to?
like with student
Yeah.
teaching. 5th grade
Oh, you went up.
was the highest for my student teaching.
Interesting.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, it was kind of sporadic because I did kindergarten for a little bit, and then what was the other classroom I worked in for a little while? I can't remember that one. It must have been a very normal, not traumatic experience. But my student teaching I did at Oxford Intermediate School, like right across from Ole Miss campus. And I was in a 5th grade classroom, and it was the worst experience of my entire life. I I wanted to drop out like 2 weeks before graduation. This woman did not want a student teacher in her classroom at all. And if I wasn't a better person, I would say her name right now on the internet and blast her. But she's a mom now. She ended up having twins like a year or two after my experience at Oxford.
And I care about that. Why? Ted name drop.
I don't want to name drop on her because she's a mom and maybe she's a changed
And?
woman now because everyone grows and changes. But
Not really.
If you see this, you know who you are and you were awful. She did not want a student teacher. She like flat out told me, she was like, I did not want a student teacher, but they made me get one. And I'm just standing there like profusely sweating from my nerves. And then I'm like, oh, she hates me. She doesn't want me here. That's great. And she would leave me alone in her classroom and go next door to her like best friend teacher's room, which everybody's done that. Every teacher has just like bopped out of the room for a second and go talk to their teacher bestie. But she would leave because she didn't want to be around me. And then she would send students from that room over to her room to tell me, Miss such and such said if you don't get control of this classroom, she's gonna have to come back over here. And I would be like, that is wonderful. Please tell her to come back over here because I don't have control of this classroom. I don't know what I'm doing. Because she wouldn't even let me decide if they could go to the bathroom or not. Like the kids would ask me, can I go to the bathroom? And I could not let them go to the bathroom. But then she wanted me to have total classroom management and control over them when she would leave the room. So it made 0 sense. And I think she was doing some sort of certification program, kind of like along the lines of like National Board Certified or something adjacent to that. And she would take the activities and the worksheets that I would create and turn them in and use them for her certification classwork or whatever.
She's a snake.
Yeah. And I reached out to my university like representative or whatever that was supposed to like
your oversee person.
Yeah. I don't know what her title was. I remember her name too. I remember it till the day I die. And she scolded me because she was like, I cannot believe how disrespectful you are acting towards this teacher who's like trying to help you and blah blah blah. And I'm like, she's taking my stuff like and passing it off as her own, which is plagiarism, which is also how I almost got expelled from Ole Miss, was because I plagiarized myself. That's a whole nother story for another day. And oh my God, what else did she do? All these other little student teachers would come to class when we would be like at Ole Miss doing those classes and be like, my teacher brought me flowers for my first day and they brought me in a whole big teacher desk to put in the corner. She gave me a table about the size of your coffee table that one of the legs was broken. So I'm not even kidding you. It sat off kiltered and like the leg would not come up. And she shoved me in the back corner of the classroom by the pencil sharpener with just a little chair and like my catawampus table. And she would want me to teach the next day because, they'd have us, teach lessons and stuff. But she wouldn't give me the material till, the night before or, the morning of sometimes.
Oh, she's a terrible teacher.
Yeah, and I'm
a terrible person.
Are you setting me up for failure? And, looking back, I'm like, I can't believe I was so scared and nervous about that because, it was not a big deal. But it was a big deal because at the end of that program, I'm supposed to go into my own classroom and run it. And I remember her telling me, you're not ready for your own classroom. You're never going to make it. And I'm like, well, sure would be nice if you'd help me and teach me. And oh my God, she was awful. I'll never forget her. I think about her at the beginning of every school year. Because I was a great teacher. My first year, I was not a good teacher, but I don't think any teacher is a good teacher your first year.
Oh, speak for yourself.
It's like,
my test scores speak for themselves as well.
The first year of teaching is just so survival mode.
It is with parents, for sure.
For sure. Mr. Kinsey, I'm going to name drop him, one of our high school teachers. He was so good. When I graduated from Ole Miss, by the way, if you're planning to be a teacher, please don't go to Ole Miss.
Okay,
anyways.
Back to what you just said. If you are planning on being a teacher, highly recommend and for sure endorsing Southern Miss is probably the best school in the entire state for educational program.
Southern Miss is good, and I've heard Mississippi State's program is also really good.
And I heard Mississippi College is pretty good, too.
I was going to go there. Had a tour, had decided how we were going to set everything up.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, oh, let's go to Oxford. And like,
I haven't talked to Derek.
Nearly offed myself.
I haven't talked to Derek McGraw
Did he
in
go
a
to
while.
MC?
He went to MC, and he's a teacher now.
Did Kelsey go to MC too?
Who?
Kelsey Anderson?
That's your friend. I don't know.
I can't remember. I've also had a baby, and so my brain doesn't work the same anymore.
But yeah, I know Derek went there.
I need to text
and he's been doing great things from what I've seen on Facebook. That's all. I haven't talked to him in a while, but from what I see on Facebook, he's doing great things. So,
every time I see someone going into education that I like know well enough to say this to, I'm like, please don't go to Ole Miss. I know some people that had some great experiences in the education department at Ole Miss, but mine was such crap. I'm like, it's not worth the risk. Like, just don't freaking do it. And unless things have changed, you are in Guyton Hall. Guyton Hall is on the edge of campus, and Jordan loved Oxford because his engineering buildings were like right in the middle of campus, and it was beautiful, and everything was green and pretty. And Guyton is literally a whole different world. Like, you just cross the street from the parking lots, like outside of campus, and there's Guyton, and there's where most of your classes are. Like, unless they're not education classes, then they're on different spots. And student teaching was just so bad. Literally, the 2 weeks before my 10-day UBD was planned, which I burned, by the way, in a ceremonial way with like a rain dance around it.
And it had the terrible teacher's picture in it.
Oh my God.
Your Ole Miss instructor's picture in it.
I
burn them out of your lives.
Phyllis Daniels. Anyway, I dropped her name.
Oh, I didn't hear it. What was it?
No, I'm not gonna say it again.
I heard McDaniels, but Daniels.
She was just so not helpful.
If your name is Miss McDaniels or Miss Daniels and you were her instructing teacher, you are a terrible teacher. I'm sorry to say, because that is not the appropriate way to do things. As a person who had a student teacher,
I have always wanted to have a student teacher.
Oh, I did.
Because of that experience. Like, I don't care if it's a male or a female. I will get them flowers. I will get them. I forgot to tell you, I had to go pick up this woman's like dry cleaning. And, like, I'd have to go to the square and pick up her lunch.
That would have been a big, fat no-no for Southern Miss.
It was awful, like, truly. And, you know, when you're doing, like, full-time student teaching and you're still taking courses at Ole Miss, and I had a job, like, outside of school working at a daycare. And so when I would be in her classroom, sometimes I would need to work on schoolwork, like, for my degree. Like, I'm not getting paid to be here. Like, this is homework. What I'm doing right now is homework, too. And she would, like, report me to the university for working on my university work while I would be in her classroom when, like, there would be quiet time or, like, the kids would be taking a test or something. Because I wouldn't be, like, walking around the room watching them take their test, she would report me to my, like, supervisor or whatever, clinical supervisor. And it's so funny because the girl next door to me, who was the student teacher for her like teacher best friend, her teacher best friend was so friggin' nice. I don't know how they were friends. And her student teacher was so sweet. I think I still follow her on like Facebook and Instagram, but she had, bless her heart, short-term memory loss. Like, she literally had a medical diagnosis for short-term memory loss. And
do you think it was real?
No, it was 100% real. 100%.
You sure?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
She was such a sweet person.
So that's why she's a teacher.
And she would, I think she actually left the state and she like works in Colorado or something.
Respect.
And like, she just radiated joy. And she would just sit for like a whole day sometimes in that teacher's classroom and like write her papers and stuff. And it would be so chill. But that teacher was an English like reading teacher, and my teacher was a math teacher. And 99% of the time, math teachers and English teachers, that's two different types of people.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'm an English teacher vibe.
And I'm a math teacher vibe.
Like, it's just two different vibes. And like, one of my best friends, Kimmy, is a math teacher, and we get along so great. But like, the teaching vibe is very different. And I just remember thinking, if I sat down for an entire day to write a paper or something, I mean, she'd probably call the cops on me. Like, she genuinely probably would. And God, she was just insane. And I remember she would not let me teach my lessons. I don't know if y'all did this at Southern Miss, but you would have to write lesson plans.
Oh, yeah.
And then you'd have to like teach them in that classroom. Well, she did not want to block off any time for me to teach like my own lessons that I would have to come up with. And I was faking the student work. Like, I was falsifying it with my left hand and Jordan's right-handed and his dominant handwriting because it's awful. And that when I got in trouble for plagiarizing my own work and like submitting the same assignment twice, the teacher sat me down and she was like, "Do you have anything else to tell me?" And I just burst into tears and I told her everything about my student teacher. And I was like, and I'm falsifying my work. Like, she won't let me teach. The only time she lets me have the kids for my lesson plans is when they go to recess or PE. And so I have to take away their outside time in order to do my stuff. So like the kids are pissed. They're sad. They're disappointed. And so I just stopped doing it because I was like, I'm ruining this kid's day. And like, they're making my day worse because they're not happy to do this. So I was like, forget it. Like, I'll just fake the classwork and turn it in. It's 5 little worksheets. And I just broke down with that teacher and told her everything. And then I had to go to my disciplinary meeting to see if I was going to get expelled for my other thing, which was fun.
It was a terrible experience.
That was a horrible experience. 0 out of 10. I do not recommend Ole Miss for education. I don't recommend anyone go into education, if I'm being completely honest. It's so hard.
Unless you have the calling.
Unless you have the calling. Like, if you're like, oh, I'll do teaching because I get summers off, baby, don't.
By the way, you don't get paid for those summers off, just in case you didn't know.
If you're going into it for the summers off, you ain't built for teaching. It's so bad.
By the way, I saw a TikTok of this, and I'm going to go ahead and say, in case these 10 people haven't seen it yet. Now, listen. For those people that say teachers get paid for summers off, that is a complete lie in the public school system.
In all school systems.
Well, I didn't know about private school because you did private school. I don't know.
Private's the same thing. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So what happens is we get a set amount of a salary for a 10-month contract, okay? Because we teach for 10 months. That is our work contract, 180 days, 180 school days. That's 10 months. What happens is they give you the option of saying, hey, do you want this salary for a 10-month scale or do you want to get this salary for a 12-month scale?
That way you get a paycheck every single month of the year.
Exactly. So we technically don't get paid for a 12-month calendar. That is only if we take that option. There are some teachers that take the 10-month option and get paid more throughout the year, but when it comes to the summer,
you can get no
they
checks.
don't get a check. So if they didn't put any of that money aside, they got to get a side job.
Which most teachers already have a second
most teachers
job.
already have a side job. All in services.
Non-existent business.
But...
please subscribe to our YouTube channel so Dalton doesn't have to work anymore.
Please don't.
Oh my God. You have your own YouTube channel, don't you?
I do.
What's it called?
I have multiple YouTube channels.
Well, tell us your YouTube channels.
Well, the first one and most important one is probably my fishing channel that I have called Outlaw Anglers with Steven and myself. Steven, you don't know him. That's my brother-in-law. We fish in our local family pond that my wonderful wife let me come into the family and participate in the fishing activities there. But that's a fun channel. And then the other one is Kudzu Cast, which is the bigger channel. Now I didn't what they call it, founded the channel. I didn't do that. That would be Jordan, Kasey's husband, my brother. He founded the channel, but we do it, and it's a fun channel to film on whenever we actually do film videos and content, which we will do tonight.
Yes, ghost hunts, paranormal, conspiracy theories. What else? That's pretty much the gist. That's pretty much the gist.
We're gonna start transitioning into funny skits and not making fun of the paranormal, but making paranormal
Humor really
fun.
is y'all's niche when it comes to the paranormal videos. They're so funny. Y'all, if you have not watched some of the Kudzu Cast videos, like from the early postings where they're investigating these different places, you've got to go. I'm serious. Go on YouTube, KudzuCast, and watch these because they're so funny.
The channel is also going to be linked down below.
Yeah, it'll be in the description box below.
That's right.
I'm trying to think of more. What are some of the most like out of pocket things that students have said to you?
Oh, well, I have a bad thing that turned into a cool thing. At least in my head, it turned into a cool thing. So I think it was my second year or first year teaching. I had a kid that just came from alternative school. So this in second grade, he was at alternative school because of behaviors, and he was just a overall destructive kid, right? He was just doing things to be in trouble. And then while he was there, he started becoming better and better and better. And then they were like, hey, we're going to try him out in your classroom this upcoming year. And I was like, okay, great. I don't have a choice.
Yeah, go.
So about a month or two into school, he gets really mad at an assignment. I'm like, well, name drop him because that would be wrong.
Yes.
But he got a chair and threw it at me.
Love that.
And
I had a chair thrown at me too.
Well, that's the thing. So he threw the chair at me, and it wasn't like, it was going pretty fast, but it wasn't like.
He's a kid.
Yeah, so, it's not going to be that bad. So I caught the chair, and I put it down before I said, what else are you going to throw? And I felt so cool.
You ate that
I felt so cool. Now, granted, the kids probably like, this guy's weird. But I thought that was the coolest thing ever. Because, like, the way I caught it, the way I spun the chair down, Spider-Man. I just said, what else you going to throw? I was like, oh, I got this kid. And then he threw a pencil. So.
My kid threw a chair. Okay, so this
you had a chair throwing kid too?
Yes, this is the year that I quit at Labor Day. Is Labor Day the one in September? Or is that Memorial Day?
What's that? What's the saying? You can't wear white after Labor Day.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. Sure, so Labor Day.
So it was the second week of September when I quit this job. Yeah, that was.
It became a full-time podcast.
No, I became a full-time couch potato with like 12 different anxiety medications running through my system. But this kid, I would give out candy at the end of the day if they had a good day. You know, 9 times out of 10, everybody gets a piece of candy because it's the end of the day. Behaviors have, ebbed and flowed throughout the day, but we're ending on a good note. Well, this one kid had I'm just going to say, he had a shit day. It was rough. And I was like, this child ain't getting no candy. Like, we got to have some boundaries here,
I'm going to show him.
And I was like, he came up to me, and I could not believe he asked for a piece of candy, but he's a 5th grader, so, that makes sense. And he was so mad. I said, I'm sorry, bud. We're not going to do a piece of candy today. Your behavior was not what it needed to be. Let's try again tomorrow and start fresh. And he like flipped out and was like, I cannot believe you're not going to give me a piece of candy. And then threw a chair across the room. And I was like, well, that's why. Because you just threw furniture across the room. And then I had a mental breakdown. Took like probably 3 weeks off. Came back. My entire pen cup was empty, like with all my cute teacher pens in it. My snacks were completely gone. Like my room was just ransacked. So like the kids and the subs, whoever, like just took all my things. And I decided to resign. And like my therapist, my doctor had to write a note to the school board to let me out of my contract. So they wouldn't report me to MDE and like try to take my license. Contract.
Yeah. Hold your license for a year.
Yeah, and hold my license for a year. And I told him, I said, you can take that license. I don't want it. This sucks. I do not want to be a teacher anymore. I hate this. No, thank you. Keep the license. I'm actually suggesting you take it by all means. No hard feelings. But they didn't take it because there's a teacher shortage, and I know exactly why. But yeah, I got out of my contract, and then I was like, at home for probably 4 to 6 months. And then I was like, I'm ready to go back into teaching. So I got snookered into a special education job in a self-contained classroom.
Yep.
Which was hell on earth. If you are a self-contained special education teacher, you've been handpicked by God, because that is probably I can't even put into words how hard of a job that is. And it's really not the kids.
Mm-mm.
It's the paperwork.
Yep.
It's the legalities. It's the red tape. It's everything that goes along with it. And at this time, I was like 26, 27. And I had 2 assistants who were much older than me. One of which was supposed to have had her own classroom that year as like a gen ed teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't give her a classroom. So she was an assistant to me, this little 26-year-old. And like if neither one of my assistants respected me or would do anything that I asked them to. And it's like, it's nothing personal. It's just I'm the one on the chopping block here. Let's try to do it. I was not told that I would have to change diapers.
Yeah, that's a no.
Ahead of time, I was not told that I would have to change diapers. And so when that was brought up to me after I'd already taken the job and signed the contract and was in the classroom, I was like, no, I'm not changing diapers. Nope. Because if you had mentioned this because what's crazy, you know what's crazy? I went to that interview at that school for a music position. They just needed a warm body to take care of the kids and like do music stuff with them. And it was kind of like part-time vibes. Mm-hmm. And I was just coming off my complete and total mental breakdown. And I was like, this will be great. This will be fun. I'll help out this school. This will be very easy work. Like this will be such a great time. And they saw my stupid resume with my stupid sped degree on it. Take it off. Okay, listen to me. If you're in education and you're not like a full special education major and you've got that like add-on degree that comes with it in like your program, take it off your resume if you don't want to do anything with sped. Because people see that and they're like, get them. Use them. They don't know yet. They have no idea what they're going to be dealing with.
When I originally interviewed for my first job, like it was a place where I was student teaching at. Yeah. Because that's where I wanted to be there because everybody on that entire campus. Yeah. Because it was called, I can't tell you what it was called, but it had 2nd and 3rd grade together in one building, and that was classified as a school. And it had like obviously all the activity teachers as well. Everybody in both grades was just wonderful. Yeah. The front staff was wonderful. The admin was great. All the teachers, all the support staff, everyone was fantastic. I was like, I gotta be in here. And thankfully, the teacher across the hall from where I was student teaching at was retiring at the end of the year. So I was like, I gotta get that spot. Now, when I interviewed, the principal at the time called me a unicorn. Now, the reason why I was called a unicorn is because I hit so many criteria.
You're a man.
I was a man.
In elementary.
In elementary education. I had a gen ed degree and a sped degree. And I could teach anywhere, or any subject classified on my degree. So he called me a unicorn, and I was not hired on the spot. I actually was not offered the job.
You're like...
Because I thought I was a shoo-in. Because what happened is, turns out I failed the Foundations of Reading test.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, if you guys don't know, in the state of Mississippi, before, I don't know about now. Yeah. But before you can be a legitimate teacher in state of Mississippi, you had to pass out. You had to pass your Foundations of Reading test. You had to pass your praxis. And if you want to be sped, you gotta pass your sped praxis. So the fun thing is, I passed both of my praxis, and then I failed the Foundations of Reading test by one question. We did the math, by the way. It was literally one question, which is so dumb to me. Now, thankfully,
and that test was when I graduated from Ole Miss. That was the first year they did the Foundations of Reading license. That's the first time they did that test in order to get your teaching license. And so you graduated
2020 because of COVID.
Okay. So like relatively close after I had graduated. And so that test was still fairly new. Yep. And I cannot tell you how many people failed that test and had to retake it. And they're not cheap. They're like $200 to $300.
The first time they offered us for Southern Miss was they offered a discount of
Mm-hmm.
$150 to take that test. That one test,
Mm-hmm.
by the way,
And
I
then
had
you
to
have
take
your
3 of them.
praxises.
Had to take 3 tests.
Mm-hmm.
$150 for the Foundations of Reading test, and I think it was close to $200 for the other 2, so 400 total
Yeah.
for that. So anyway, the reason why and thank God for COVID.
I'm
Thank
telling you.
God. Because if we didn't have COVID and we didn't shut down and they didn't close the
Mm-hmm.
testing centers
Mm-hmm.
because they gave out emergency licenses
Oh, yeah.
for all the teachers that had to take their test, but
Mm-hmm.
they shut down everything, so we couldn't
Yeah.
take it. They were like, "Hey, you can be a teacher."
Mm-hmm.
Now, tell me something. I didn't pass the Foundations of Reading test,
Yeah.
but I've been a teacher for 5 years.
And you never had to go back and take it?
Mm-mm. Also, fun fact, I just renewed my license. So I'm good for the next 5 or 10,
Yep.
whatever it is. I don't even know what it is. How does it make sense? And by the way, my test scores are great.
Mm-hmm.
So
How did you get your CEUs for your license?
So fun fact.
Yeah.
Yes, I do. So for the first time you renew your license, all you need is 10 CEUs. That is it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as of last year, I didn't have but like 1.7.
Mm-hmm.
And then my principal asked me if I wanted a student teacher. And I said, absolutely.
Uh-huh.
Because if you don't know this, being a mentor teacher gives you 10 CEUs.
Shut the hell up. Are you
Yep.
serious?
10 CEUs for being a student, being a mentor to
Loophole.
a student teacher.
Hey,
Yes,
life
it
hack.
is. It is.
Life hack.
Yes, it is. But the thing is, with being a mentor, is a lot that goes into it.
Yeah.
Like how you had a terrible experience with yours, I had a fantastic experience with
Mhm.
mine. I wanted to emulate that fantastic experience, but the issue was she came in with that crazy class last year.
Mhm.
So she got to see the ugly.
Did she even continue her
So-
education degree?
That's the crazy thing is this. She could have been offered the job if she didn't apply for the position, but
Mhm.
when my co-teacher left, they interviewed people for that
Mhm.
spot, right? Well, if it was a current student teacher, they
Mhm.
were going to hire a long-term sub for those couple
Yeah.
of months, and then when it comes to January,
August. Yeah.
they
Oh,
would
mhm.
January for the halfway point.
Yeah.
They would just because they have the degree by then,
Yeah.
they would allow them to be the teacher.
Mhm.
She didn't even apply for it.
Bless
She
her heart.
didn't apply for it. Now she is a teacher now. She is on the coast, and she's
Oh,
doing
okay.
from what I've seen on Facebook, she's been doing fantastic.
Mhm.
I haven't reached out. I probably should
Yeah,
just to
check in
make
on
sure
her.
that she's okay and make sure
Yeah.
everything's going good for her. But last I checked, she's doing fantastic. So I think I did my job pretty well.
But what a useful way to earn your CEUs.
Oh, yes.
Like that, if that was an option, I'd
Mhm.
100% do that, because if you don't know this, you have to pay for your CEUs.
Oh yeah.
If
Unless
it's not,
your school offers some,
Yeah.
they offer some things.
Yeah, there's like workshops and stuff
Mm.
that like my school sent me to and they paid for. But other than that, you have to like pursue them online yourself and pay
Mhm.
for them out of pocket, which is so stupid because it's busy work. It is.
Mhm.
It's not. I did one online because I never planned on renewing my degree.
I didn't either. I thought by year 5 I'd be out.
I know. I thought I'd be at home pregnant with my 3rd kid by the time I got to my 5th year teaching.
I don't know about home being pregnant, but I'd
And-
be at home.
And so I was like, I never got any CEUs like my
Mm.
entire time teaching. And then we had, 2.5 years of infertility, and my contract was, I mean, not my contract, my license was getting close to being expired. And I was like, damn it, I might have to renew this damn license because I'm not pregnant yet. I'm ready to go home. I don't want to do this anymore. And I was like, dang, I got to hustle because I'm not pregnant
Mhm.
yet. And I got to have a job and income.
You know what's really crazy though?
Ugh.
If you don't watch out for it, there are a lot of courses out there that are like worth 0.2 CEUs,
Mhm.
0.5, 0.7,
Mhm.
not even worth 1 CEU.
Oh,
So
I
you're
know.
spending like $125 for a half
Yes.
a credit, and you got to get 10 total credits.
It's insane.
Makes no sense to me.
I did one that was like, it's literally, this is how stupid they are. It was like setting up a classroom, like an efficient classroom.
Mhm.
And
I
like,
saw that one.
yeah, organizing a classroom, that's my jam. Like I can do that in my sleep. It's the one thing for education or for a classroom that I can confidently say, I got this.
Yeah.
I can set up an efficient classroom for different like levels of learners and all that
might need to
stuff.
come to the classroom and do that for me.
I would
do it.
love to. In a perfect world, I would be someone who just goes into teachers' classrooms and helps them organize and like come up with creative ways to engage their students and like decorate their classrooms for them.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was my favorite part of being a teacher, was creating that environment for kids. And thankfully I really got to do that at my school that I recently have stepped back from since I'm at home with Fox. And I will be going back to that school. I love my little school. I actually, when I went to my interview for that school, you were talking about COVID earlier.
Mm-hmm.
COVID hit when I was in that self-contained classroom, and I was only in that classroom for like 2 months, and then COVID hit, and we all went home. And I don't know if anyone understands how difficult it is to do self-contained special education online when none of your students have access to the internet. It's impossible.
That sounds terrible.
Yeah, I would make packets, like work packets, and
Mhm.
I would drive from Brandon, which is where I lived, to Yazoo City, which is where I was working. So it was like almost an hour and a half drive from over by the reservoir to there, like once or twice a week. And I would sit in front of the school with all their little folders with all their packets and wait for their parents to come get them. And usually 2 would show up and come get their packets. And it's like, well, if they don't come get their packets, like I can't go hunt them down and take these packets to them. Like that's ridiculous. So when COVID hit, I got to go home. And if COVID had not hit and I had to be in that classroom with those assistants and all that paperwork that I did not know how to do, I probably would have lost my mind.
I hear you talking about paperwork a lot, and I know that special education in general has a lot of paperwork, and so much stuff. And being the general education teacher for an inclusion classroom, because if people don't know, inclusion classroom is very simple. It's where inside your general education classroom, you have kids with IEPs, and then a special education teacher comes inside the classroom, and they're in there for an allotted amount of time. Sometimes it's 30 minutes, sometimes it's an hour. Just how much time they have listed on their IEP, that's how long they're in there with us. And they're basically there to help the kids. And
academic support, emotional support, behavioral support.
So I've been the general education teacher for an inclusion classroom for 4 out of the 5 years that I've been a teacher. So I know about the paperwork, I know about the meetings and stuff. And even so, I still want to be a special education teacher. And I never hid this from anybody. Everybody knows that I want to be a sped teacher. And I think next year, if an opportunity pops up, I think I'm gonna apply for it. Now, I'm not gonna guarantee I get it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of teachers, a lot of special education teachers that are out there in our district that are way more qualified than me. And I'm not sitting here saying that as a bad thing. It's a good thing to have a district where everyone's very qualified.
Yeah.
And my district is very hard to get into, so they like to switch and mingle they want to keep the high talented people and highly qualified people together.
You got good people, you want to keep good people.
Exactly. So hopefully I can swindle my way into a spot. But we're gonna see what happens.
Well, what's great about your degree is that you were dual.
Yes.
So you got the same amount of sped education as you did gen ed education.
Yes.
With our 2 classes.
Oh no!
I got 2. I literally believe it was only 2. I know it wasn't more than 2 classes. It could have been 1. 2 classes to add on to our like curriculum, like our course schedule, to get that little sped degree on our license. And that is not enough to be a self-contained sped teacher. And this experience, oh my God. So I went into this classroom and I told the principal at the interview when she was trying to convince me to do the sped position, I said, ma'am, I don't have any sped experience. I had 2 classes tacked onto my schedule at Ole Miss. They said that was enough for this. It's on my resume. It's on my teaching license. I don't know what I'm doing, though. I'm going to need a lot of support. If we want this done legally and correctly, I'm happy to learn and do it because it is on my license. Maybe I will fall in love with this, but I'm going to need a lot of scaffolding to help me.
Yeah.
And there was a little support for a little bit, and it was great. One of the other sped workers in the school scheduled the meetings, and like I attended the meetings
Yeah.
and did all that. And then at one point in that short period of time that I was there, they just stopped helping and stopped supporting. And I was like, and then this is so funny. I can't believe I'm going to say this. We got to the end of the school year where you have to go in and like we met with the district sped person, the sped coordinator.
Yeah.
And went over all the IEPs, and like all my IEPs were wrong. And like this is the day they're just like, thumbing through them, like we're going to put them in files, we're going to be done. All of mine were wrong. And my kids were all virtual for like more, like for 75% of the time that I had them that school year, because I was only there from January to May. Most of that they were at home for COVID. And so like all their goals and like all that was like so jacked up because I'm not seeing them at all. And she was like, you have to go back and fix this. You have to go back and fix this. And I literally remember sitting at a computer in the sped trailer pod thing or whatever, looking at this other teacher who was also had one foot out the door and was ready to like leave this district. And I was like, what do I type? What do I put in this box? I don't know what I'm doing. And I've told everyone I don't know what I'm doing. And this is a legal document. It's just, I don't know. And I was like, like I was already leaving. Like I was not going to be at the school district anymore. I was never going to be in sped again. So really, I genuinely didn't care, but I was just so ready to get out of this environment. Oh, bless those children. Bless those children. But they missed so much of that year because of COVID. Like it was all going to be jacked up anyways. And two classes does not a sped teacher make. It really doesn't.
So question. You said your two assistants that you had while you were being a sped teacher. You said one of them was a gen ed teacher that didn't have a classroom, so they put him as your assistant.
Yeah.
So I feel like I would have this issue, and I'm curious if this is how you felt. So being a gen ed teacher, I'm always in control of my classroom. Like I am the person that makes the final decision. Doesn't matter who's in the classroom with me. It could be my sped teacher, could be speech person, could be dyslexia, it could be literally anybody. The principal could be in there. Does not matter. At the end of the day, the final decision is made by me. It's just how it goes. You're the captain of your ship is what they say. I feel like transitioning from gen ed to sped to being that support staff, I feel like that would be a hard transition to make.
Well, I don't think she ever had her own classroom to begin with.
Okay.
Like, I think she was an assistant, and she was, like, getting her degree online.
Gotcha.
And the previous school year, like, during the summer, she got her license or her whatever, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And they were supposed to give her own classroom, but they didn't, and they put her in a support staff position. So she and the other, assistant had been in that classroom all year with the other sped teacher whose spot I filled because she had to be removed from the classroom. I don't know why.
I just
wasn't
feel like
good, but
I just feel like that would be a hard thing for me.
Oh, it was a hard thing for her. She would keep a notebook on things that I did.
Oh no, I
like bad things that I did.
Oh God, no.
And she would go to the principal and like report me.
What
and
a rat.
Like she told on me because I didn't switch groups one day when I was supposed to, like with my kids, like rotate centers. But it was because my kid that I was working with at that moment had been out for like a week. And so I was taking extra time with her, like 2 centers worth of time instead of rotating right then because we were making some progress. So I just started the timer over and we didn't rotate. And she turned me in for that. And so at the end of the year when I had to leave, there was also a student who was in a wheelchair in that class who ended up going like I can't remember what it was called, but she did school at home, but she was still a student.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
To get services and stuff through the school district, which is great that they can do that. But she had Angelman syndrome. or something, where her bones were very, very brittle and she was very fragile. And so they just wanted her back at home and have someone come to their home to do therapies and like stuff with her. And so I like saw her one time. Like I met her once, and then I didn't do anything else with her because she wasn't at the school. She was at her home, and like I didn't have anything to do with her at all. And at the end of the year, her file and her IEP and everything had to be turned in, and I didn't know where it was because I had nothing to do with this child at all. I met her once. And when I went to get it, I went and got it one day when the school was like technically supposed to be closed, and it was in a filing cabinet somewhere, and I found out where it was, and I went and got it, and I turned it in to the other sped teachers or whatever who were in charge of it, and she like chewed me out in front of the entire staff the day we came in to do cum folders, which I had never done cum folders before either, because our counselors always did them, because when I started teaching, I was teaching middle school. So, like, I didn't touch a cum folder. We had somebody who did that.
I touched a cum folder.
Yeah, I've never touched a cum folder. So, I go in to do my cum folder, and I'm, like, doing all the things where all the elementary staff, the whole school staff is in the library, and everybody's sitting at the little tables working on everything. I'm sitting there, and she chews me out in front of everyone. And she's like, this should have been turned in already. Da, 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 da. And, like, literally grilled me up and down in front of all the staff, and then turns to the teacher next to me and is just like, oh, by the way, I have your door hanger. Like, just flipped a switch.
Yeah, I can't. I would have walked out.
Oh, I was the first one to finish my cum folders out of the entire staff, and I left, and I never looked back. I didn't tell anybody bye. I was like, I'm out of here.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things that I can take, but that's just being disrespectful.
It was so mean
and
for no reason.
Yeah, I don't. You can ask my students too. I don't tolerate disrespect, no matter on what level.
It's a speck on.
And I'm sorry, but in my current administration, like they were very respectful people, and they run a tough ship. Don't get me wrong, but they're very respectful about it. It's not like they're gonna intentionally embarrass you. Like none of my admin that I've ever dealt with has tried to intentionally trying to embarrass you or make you look bad in front of anybody, your peers, students, parents. If there's an issue or something like that, they will pull you aside. They will talk to you in private. And whenever they do that, it's not even like a mean thing. It's like, hey, I see you're doing X, Y, and Z wrong. This is how we can fix it. Like, it's great supportive roles. Yeah. Which is why the district that I'm in is fantastic. Yeah. And you have just had a terrible experience in the educational field.
My student teaching experience was awful. My first year teaching was awful. That experience at the elementary school, and I know what you're thinking. You're like, Kasey, there's a pattern here.
Maybe it's you.
There is a common theme. But it's not, because
how sure are we?
I wasn't very sure until I was at the elementary school in that district where I left in September. Because slowly after I left, people would text me and tell me their experience with that school and with that admin. And I'm like, okay, it's not me. Oh, I just hit the mic. And my bad experience at the middle school was because I was a first-year teacher. The leadership was not what it needed to be. My co-teacher at the time, which I'm friends with now, I love her. She's so sweet. She was going through a really rough time in her life that I can seriously relate to. And I was just some ignorant first-year teacher who didn't know what questions to ask, and I didn't know what I didn't know. And there was a power imbalance there because my leadership, instead of, because lesson plans that you write in your education program at university are nothing like the lesson plans that you write when you're in the classroom.
The 7 pages from university, and then you come down to
the student will. It's a post-it note.
It's
like
a little
RL
legit post-it note.
7.2 is what we're covering today.
Oh no, not even that. It's like workbook pages 18, 19, and 20.
So I didn't know how to write like real lesson plans for an actual classroom because I was doing all that crap at Ole Miss that was 47 pages long and so pointless and stupid. And so my admin didn't like my lesson plan. So instead of sitting me down and like explaining to me what the lesson plans need to look like, she just told me to copy everything the other teacher across the hall was doing, which of course made that teacher feel like, great, now I'm carrying the weight of both of these classrooms. And so it kind of made that teacher feel like she was in charge of me. And if you know me as a person, I don't like being controlled, and I don't like people telling me what to do, especially if we're on the same wavelength. And like we were very much on the same wavelength. And who are you looking at?
My wife.
And she was going through a hard time in her life that I did not know anything about. And at one point, I did throw a stack of copies at her.
Nice.
I am ashamed of that.
No, you shouldn't be.
And
I
it was not my finest
behavior.
moment. We were both in very bad places. And after we both have left that school district now, she left a few years later. After I had left.
Are we gonna name drop her?
No, I love her. We've talked. She's apologized. I've apologized. We're good friends. Like that was just not a good environment for either one of us. She ended up moving to an elementary school in that district as well, and then ended up leaving the district altogether. We're good. We're so good. We've reached out to each other. We've made amends. She's a great person. What's so funny is we actually have so much in common. Like our interior design style is so like the same. We're both moms, like same sense of humor. Like she's so sweet. And I hate that when we were working together, we were both in such bad places that we couldn't have that friendship. Because, I mean, I confide in her. She confides in me from time to time. And, like, it's a really good friendship. And toxic work environment, that year we had so much turnover, too. Like, I think, like, if it was a staff of 20, like, 18 teachers left. Like, it was wild.
Gracious.
So it wasn't just us. It was just not a good work environment. And I think that is when I was like, okay, this isn't me. Education's hard, and like teaching is hard, and if you don't have good admin and there's not good morale in your school, like you're not going to have a good experience. Because the school that I was at before I had Fox, if I don't go back and teach there, I won't be going back to teaching, because it's such an amazing school. It's so tiny. I would send Fox there. Like, it's the only school I would ever send my child to, because I trust these teachers. I know these teachers. It's faith-based. Huh.
Sorry. I had a question.
What's your question?
No, it's completely off topic now.
I love that.
Sorry.
You're no better than a student.
Sorry. We're talking about coworkers, talking about your experiences that are terrible and mine that have been great. But parents.
Oh, no.
I just have one question.
What's your question?
Have you ever had a message from a parent that made you cry, but not in the sense of being mean? Like a sweet message.
Oh my God, yes. I think I still have it in my phone. But I didn't get these messages until I started at the school that I'm talking about right now.
So
let me see if I can find it.
While you find that, I'm going to tell you why I brought this up. It's because I want to brag.
Yeah.
About me. So, and my wife. So, last year, it was a terrible year. But we wanted to cheer up our kids from my co-teacher leaving. So, normally, we would buy Christmas presents for our kids, like for the class. And it wouldn't be anything special. It was like a $5 board game. And we'll buy enough for our class and then put them underneath the Christmas tree in the classroom.
Yeah.
And then, like the day or two before we get out for Christmas break, they'll open them in the class, a big Christmas party and whatnot. So, well, with my co-teacher leaving, there wasn't a teacher for the other classroom. So, Katie and I had to talk about it, and we ended up saying, okay, well, we're going to go ahead and buy 40 Christmas presents for these kids. That's 40 times...
At least 5.
Yeah, 40 times 5, and that's what? I don't know.
$200?
But it was a lot more than that. It was like close to 400 because like taxes.
Most
it's like
teachers. What's 40 times 5?
And I'm a math teacher.
You're a math teacher. I'm retired. I don't have to know.
But we ended up buying presents for both classes.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of amazing parents that last school year, and a lot of them were on PTO.
Oh, My school email's been disabled.
Oh, that sucks. But I had a lot of amazing PTO parents last year, and one of them the PTO president, and she took care of me during PTO stuff.
That's
But
nice.
love you. But um, she ended up helping me like organize things with other parents, trying to figure out because it's hard to run 2 classes for a Christmas party, especially
Yes.
and they were like hot food, like people bought pizzas
Crock pots,
and
Rotel.
I had a kid's dad or something like that was the manager of Lost Pizza, so he sent some pizzas and stuff, and it was a great
That's
party.
fun.
But you know, all of them, I stood in the middle of the door because our rooms are attached by a single door, and I stood in at the end of it in the middle because I want to see all the kids' faces when they open up presents.
You need that
And
validation.
I do.
That's what we live for.
And the thing is, me and my wife, Katie, we wrapped all the presents.
Oh.
Like every single one was wrapped. We did like five a night for like for a long time, and then we finally got there and finally was able to. And I would slowly bring them to school throughout the month of December, and I was in the doorway, and I said 3, 2, 1. They all opened their presents. And at the moment, you know, it was nice. You see, all the kids having smiles and stuff. Well, that night, I got a message from a parent, and it was a thanking message, and it will forever stick with me. She basically, I'm not gonna get into all the details, but they had a rough year, and somebody passed away. Like I think it was their dad passed away, and it was a very, very touching message, and it was basically like, she looks up to you as a father figure. Like you are that positive male person in their life. And I was like, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. But then it was like, well, with him passing away, they did a lot of money for that funeral expenses.
Yeah.
So they didn't have enough money for Christmas presents. So that was the only present she was getting that year.
Oh my gosh.
And that right there, as a man, I will say, I cried. I did cry.
That'll get you.
That one got me. I don't normally cry. Crying is a very hard thing for me to do.
Not me.
Oh, it's very hard for me to do. I won't cry very often, but that one, I won't lie, did make me cry.
The school that I just like stepped away from has healed so much in me. Like these people are like truly like my family, and I know people are like, do not work at a school that says they're like family because it's toxic. I love this school. It's the only school I will ever work at if I can't. I told the principal or the headmaster this summer when I got my last check, I said, look, if you don't hire me back, I'm not working nowhere else. So this is the only place I'm going to work, just letting you know. And I had a student who was from Cambodia. And
I remember you talking about them.
Yes, and his mom messaged me and like said, thank you so much, Kasey. She always called me Kasey, and it was so nice because when I started teaching, I wanted my teacher name to be Miss Kasey because I had just gotten engaged and I knew my last name was going to change. And I was like, just call me Miss Kasey because that's not going to change. And it was unprofessional.
I missed your age. They said the same thing about me.
And so having her call me by my name was so nice because it was like, oh, that's right, I'm a person. And she was just like, thank you so much for taking care of him. You're such an amazing teacher. We love you so much. He loves you. You know, you have helped him so much, and we appreciate everything you're doing. And I literally cried. I was sitting there like, oh my gosh, good people exist. Like good schools do exist. And it was just so great. She actually orchestrated a baby shower for me with my students before I left to have Fox.
Nice.
Had a cake and all these goodies, and one of Fox's favorite toys is a gift that she gave us, and she's just such a sweetheart. There's so many good things I could say about that school, and I will. If you need a school for your kid, you message me and I'll give you all their info because you should send your kids there. But I absolutely adore them. And the staff is so sweet. They're so supportive and so kind, and they check in on me. And I learned more in my first year at this school And I had kind of a rough class my first year at that school, and I was teaching 3rd grade, so like reading and everything was intense. And I had kind of an intense class behavior-wise, and it was still light years better than being in the public school system.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I will never go back to teaching public school. Like, this school is so amazing. And I learned so much from my colleagues than I ever learned teaching public school. And I taught public school for like 3 or 4 years. And that first year at this sweet little private school, so many teachers helped me in ways that I like was like, oh my God, I'm learning so much. This is so great. And I can't say enough good things about them. But how long have we been filming, babe? Oh, okay. Do we want to wrap it up?
We can. I just got one more thing I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
So I know we got to wrap things up, but there's one thing I want to say. When I was thinking about becoming a teacher, and you invited me to come to your classroom when you were teaching middle school.
Oh my God, I forgot about that.
And I was there.
Yeah.
And I came there, and I think I was there just for a day, and then I started substitute teaching a little bit just like after school ended and stuff. So good luck, money, because I was broke.
That's right. You were subbing there for a little while. That's so funny. We worked together for a brief time.
Yeah.
God, trauma just blocks things out.
Yeah. And I substitute taught, but when I was there, your kids, because you had the last name Hildebrand, and then I would show up as Mr. Hildebrand, Dalton Hildebrand, whatever you want to call it, and your kids thought we were married.
Yeah. Thought we were but here's what's funny. They thought we were married,
but
and then when
we're
I
brothers and sisters.
Yeah, when I was like, no, we're not married. That's not my husband. Oh, is that your brother? I'm like, okay, we just took 2 different leaps.
Yes, we did.
In
that was
weird
directions.
much. Which, granted, with our current extended family situation, anyways,
we could be.
I totally forgot you subbed there.
Oh yeah.
There. Do you remember the prank we pulled on my kids?
No.
With you being there? Okay, so if you were one of my students this year and you were involved in this prank, I am sorry. I had one girl who was like, I had to doo-doo, and I held my doo-doo so that I would. Okay. So I think this was my 2nd year of teaching. Was it my 2nd year?
Oh, I remember
Yes.
now. Okay.
I don't remember what year it was, but it was rough. Like, I still didn't have a handle on classroom management, and I had 135 kids that I dealt with, 7th graders. If you've never dealt with 7th graders, at a minimum 135 of them, they're basically feral cats that you wrangle for 8 hours a day. Their hormones are pumping. Everything is insane. Like, they're not real humans for the 7th grade year, okay? And if you have a middle schooler at home, you know what we're talking about. And so when Dalton came to shadow me, I told my kids he was from MDE, which is the Mississippi Department of Education. I said, he's here to see if I need to be a teacher. He's grading me. I could lose my job. You guys have got to behave. Like, please.
I remember this. I was dressed with a button down.
Did you have a tie on?
I had a clipboard. I was writing stuff. I was really just drawing, but I was writing stuff.
None of my kids spoke that day.
It was fantastic.
It was the best day ever. It was so great. At the end of the day, though, or like the next day, it was the end of
the day because I left.
At the end of the day, I came clean and I told him that he was not from MDE, whatever. And this one girl, one of the students came up to me. She was so funny. She said, I had to boo-boo and I didn't go boo-boo because I didn't want to raise my hand and have to leave the class because I didn't want to get you in trouble. I felt so bad.
That means that they cared about you.
I will say this, that in the first couple years of teaching, I may not have taught my kids a lot academically, but they knew I loved them. And they were so fun. I will say that about middle schoolers and like those lower high school age group. They're fun to teach. Like, they're funny. Their personalities are just hilarious. Teaching them is almost impossible.
They get the sarcasm.
Like, oh my gosh.
Because teachers are very sarcastic.
Yes. And that's something that you can't really do in elementary.
You can in 3rd grade because I do it.
But it doesn't hit the same.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't hit the same with lower elementary kids with sarcasm. But those middle schoolers, oh my God, they say the funniest crap. It's so funny. And I truly did love them. And that is one thing about teaching that I do miss is the relationships
Mm-hmm.
that I would have. When I go back to teaching, I think I'll probably go back to the middle school age group though, even though people probably think I'm crazy for that.
No, for sure.
But I miss that. And the kids that I taught in recent years will be middle school age by the time I go back probably, or even high school age. And I want those kids again because I truly do love them and I want to keep up with them. We said 15 minutes ago we were going to wrap it up.
Yeah. So
that is all. Thank you so much, Dalton, for being a guest on Sister Sit Down.
You're welcome. I'm the other grade.
And we'll see you next time. Bye.